Are you thinking about a move to the Pacific Northwest, specifically Spokane or the Coeur d'Alene area? Well, in this video, we're going to break down some of the different pros and cons between the Coeur d'Alene area here in North Idaho and the Spokane, Washington area. And we're going to get after it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe below. Tap the bell so you can be notified every time we talk about anything going on here in the North Idaho area. I'm Reed Wilson with Revealing North Idaho, longtime Idaho resident, born and raised here in Idaho. Been a North Idaho resident for about the last 10 years, 20 years as a real estate agent here in the greater Idaho area. I am doing a video today on some of the different pros and cons of the Spokane area and the North Idaho area. Now, I'm also licensed in the Spokane area, the Washington area, so I do a lot of business over that way. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different ideas, pros and cons, and things that people think about as they're looking to make the decision between the Spokane area or the North Idaho area, Coeur d'Alene area. So let's start over there with some of the pros and cons in that area as we jump into the cost of living. Well, you know, Spokane as a pro is more cost effective than many of the West Coast cities that you're going to see, you know, versus Seattle, Portland, you know, a lot of these in California, that type of thing. So we are going to see a big difference in cost of living. Average housing cost over there right now sits at about $461,900. Rentals are going to really vary. I mean, a rental down in the downtown area, you know, Hilliard or something like that, versus going out towards Spokane Valley or Liberty Lake, there's going to be a big difference in price. So depending on where you're at in the city or where you need to be, you know, most likely your rentals are going to be less expensive down closer to college and some of those things, the Gonzaga area, etc., versus getting out into like we talked about, Spokane Valley, or going north up into some of those areas there, North Spokane, especially South Hill or Liberty Lake like we talked about. So there are some big differences there as far as a lot of the rentals, especially when we start comparing them to a lot of the other cities in the Pacific Northwest. You know, one of the cons is going to be there in the Spokane area that housing costs are on the rise. And it's getting a lot more expensive compared to what it used to be, especially as more and more people come this direction. The other thing we need to talk about with the cost of living over there in that Spokane area, or Washington in general, is Washington just passed one of the largest tax increases in 2025 that it has ever done. It has increased the capital gains tax, business and occupation taxes, as well as transportation taxes like your gas and whatnot. So capital gains tax, they did do a new 9.9% long-term capital gains tax exceeding the 1 million was enacted effective January 1st, 2025. There are some other caveats to that depending on where things are at. Same with the estate taxes. There is a tax exemption up to about 3 million, but estates over 8.8 million are going to pay a much higher rate. So that may not affect a lot of you, but your business and occupation. So if you are self-employed over there or need a licensing for any specific reason, you are going to see an increase from 1.2% to 1.5%. But some of the biggest costs is going to come in the way of gasoline tax, which went from 6 cents to 55 cents per gallon, and diesel 3 cents to 52 cents per gallon, starting effective July 1st. And then you will see both of those fuel taxes increase by 2% annually, starting, like we said, here in July. And then there will be some retail car rental tax rates and some of that. So if you have questions on that, or you think that might affect you in some way, then I would recommend doing a little research and figuring out which parts of that is going to be not really a benefit. I don't see a benefit in higher taxes. Is going to be a negative to maybe what you're doing, or if you're coming from another area. Those are things that maybe you need to think about and prepare for before you make that move. So give us a call, shoot us a text. Hey, we're happy to help hunt down any of that information for you and see what's going to work best for you depending on your specific situation. So Coeur d'Alene, historically, lower cost of living than the Spokane area, especially with those additional taxes that are going on. But some of the cons here in the Coeur d'Alene area is going to be, we are seeing rapid growth, which is driving up our housing costs. It's not as cheap as it used to be here. And in fact, our housing, which in Idaho year to date right now, is at about $640,783 here in the North Idaho area versus what we were saying, that $461,900 that's over there in that Spokane area. So you can buy a little more home for the money there in the Spokane area, but you really need to kind of weigh what some of those taxes are going to be. Property taxes is going to be another one which is higher over in that area, but they also do not have a state tax. So those are some things, or a state income tax. So those are some things that you need to take into consideration as you're making some of those moves, depending on where it is you're looking to go to. Let's jump on to number 2, job market and economy. Spokane has a much more diverse economy with opportunities in healthcare and education, manufacturing, professional services. There are a lot more major employers over there, such as Amazon, etc. Whereas though some of the cons over there is going to be lower average wages compared to, say, a lot of other cities over there on the West Coast of similar size. So Coeur d'Alene, a pro is going to be, there is a strong tourism and outdoor recreation industry and the potential for some jobs in hospitality and some of those related fields, but the con's going to be, is a lot of those jobs don't pay near as well. There's there's a lot less diverse job market in the Coeur d'Alene area and North Idaho area, and it can be challenging to find work outside of some of the dominant industries. So that is definitely something to keep in mind as you're looking for employment. Is, do you need a specific specialized job for what you're doing? Are you self-employed, or what is it that it looks like that you're going to need to support yourself and your family? Let's jump into number 3, lifestyle and culture. Spokane is larger, and obviously it's going to have a wider range of restaurants and entertainment and cultural events, where they've got sporting events, they've got theater, they have concert, and all of these different, things that go on over there with their parades are going to be different. Their markets and festivals are going to be a little bit different versus what we see maybe in some of the other areas. That comes at a cost, because when you go into the big city, you also have big city problems. So you're going to deal with traffic, you're going to deal with more crime, depending on what areas you're in. So those are some things to maybe keep in mind also. Coeur d'Alene, more laid back, small town feel, stronger sense of community here in that North Idaho area, with a much larger focus on outdoor activities. So you're going to see a lot more things going on, like the Ironman, Coeur d'Alene, the boat regatta. There's a little more outdoor emphasis over here in this area. And so although some of the cons is we have some fewer options for dining and shopping and entertainment compared to Spokane, depending on what's important to you would be a big factor to maybe where you want to be. That should bring us right into number 4, outdoor recreation. And Spokane does have a ton of outdoor recreation. They are close to hiking, and they've got the Spokane River. You've got lakes a little further away up above, going north of Spokane. You have Spokane Mountain for winter activities for skiing and such, versus Coeur d'Alene area where, the Spokane does not have the immediate access to, say, some of the lakes and that type of stuff. We do have more ski areas over here on this side. So with Coeur d'Alene, that is a great segue right into the lakes, because the lakes is the big draw here in the North Idaho area. Lake Coeur d'Alene, huge access. You got Lake Pend Oreille, you got Hayden Lake, you got Twin Lakes, you got Coquilala Lake and Spirit Lake, and on and on and on. We just have a lot of lakes and bodies of water here that just allows for a lot of outdoor recreation, whether it's boating and surfing, fishing, or whatever that might look like for you, kayaking, who knows, but we have a lot of that, which is a big draw, and maybe that's some of the con, because with that also brings the tourists. And so we do get, especially in those high tourist seasons, where things are a bit more crowded and access to some of that may not be. I know out on Lake Coeur d'Alene, there are certain times when you just have a lot of boats. It's choppy. It's, you really got to have your head on a swivel sometimes out there. Just, there's a lot going on. And so those are some things also to think about as you look at some of those areas here in the North Idaho area, that it does draw crowds. So fishing, hunting, all of those things, people come here to be a part of the outdoor activities. And so they are going to bring with them some of that. So that is going to bring with them some of the negatives, like crowding and more people, and it's going to have a toll on the environment itself here. So those are things to keep in mind as we look into some of those things. Number 5, education and healthcare. Spokane has more school options from kindergarten up through 12. They got higher education. They've got a wider network of hospitals and healthcare specialists. Though the school districts can seem very large and overwhelming, you might feel like you get lost a little bit within that, versus though like Coeur d'Alene, with depending on where you're at in the North Idaho area, smaller areas, smaller school districts, but that also brings other issues like finance issues that we've seen in different areas, where it's harder to have the money to take care of all the essential needs. And in some areas, they've had to actually close the schools for a certain time and ship kids to other areas because certain bonds or tax increases haven't passed. And the growth has brought some negative is here in that North Idaho area. Teachers don't get paid as much in some of these areas here. And so that also creates some issues, but funding has been an ongoing issue. Getting things passed, getting bonds passed, making sure the kids have the things that they need. So that will be an ongoing issue here. So to wrap this up, we went over a lot of pros and cons. Each area offers different opportunities and negatives depending on maybe what it is you're looking for. And some of that comes down to also personal choice, as far as, do you feel more comfortable in a more diverse area with more diverse people, with a bigger economy, with different politics? The Spokane area, Washington area is a blue state, and so its politics are going to be different than North Idaho, that is very conservative and being a red state. And so North Idaho is not anywhere near as diverse as what you're going to see over there in the Spokane area. So some of that also is going to be a personal preference of how maybe you feel and what you're looking for in your next area that you're going to want to live in. I would recommend, if you are considering both areas, come up, take a visit, spend a little time in both areas and look to see maybe what offers you the best feeling. And be sure and subscribe to our videos. Like I said, we come at you every week. Be sure and click below at our relocation guide. Whether you're looking to make a move in the next 2 weeks or 2 years, me and my team, we're never too busy for you. Would love to help make your next move to the North Idaho area or the Spokane area a smooth transition. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you.